It's going to take a second. Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Griffin. I'm the program coordinator here at AMI-Quebec. I'm joined with Sara Cohen-Fournier, who's a doctor with McGill Residency here in Montreal, Canada. And also our other guest is An-Phuong Nguyen, who's an acupuncturist in the Laurentians. She's remote with us today. And so, like I said, alternative treatments of mental illness is a very wide open topic. But at first, let me just say a little bit about AMI-Quebec to everyone who's new to us here on our Facebook Live. Basically, we're an organization that's been around 41 years, I think 41, 42 years now, and our main focus is the caregivers of those with mental illness. So that's parents, spouses, children, siblings, coworkers, boyfriends, girlfriends, people who are in the general vicinity, family and friends of those with mental illness. We have support groups, workshops, counseling, online events, videos, podcasts, all kinds of things. And you can learn more about us on our website. It's AMI-Quebec.org. And so the beauty of, well, one last thing is that I will announce our new spring program schedule for April, May, and June at the end of this video. So please stick around. Besides all this great information, I will give you kind of a sneak peek of our spring program at the very end. So basically, the beauty of these Facebook Live videos that we started a few months ago, and Sarah's been a part of a bunch of these, is that you get to talk live to specialists. So if you are on Facebook now, you can type in any kind of question, comments, or concerns. If there's issues with the audio or the video, let us know. My colleague Tony is with us tonight, and he's going to be on the laptop taking questions and comments from Facebook. So ask us, and we'll do our best because, you know, alternative treatments is obviously a very wide open subject matter and very much can go many different ways. But I will go to Sara first. What is the first thing that kind of came to mind when we started talking about doing this subject?
Well, first of all, I'm so thankful to be here again and to be involved in AMI-Quebec. These guys rock. They do amazing work all the time. If we didn't have them, I don't know what we would do. So do not hesitate to reach out. And also, please do send us our question. We have 2 hours with you, and we're here for you, and we want you to tell us what you would want us to talk about. But when we first started talking about alternative treatment for mental health, I was wondering a bit of like, how can we make it a bit more really involving the community as well that's out there? And that's why I was automatically, I thought of my friend Anne, who's an amazing healer and an amazing acupuncturist, and I speak personally as well. And she's also I'll let her talk and introduce herself a little bit, but she's also led a lot of meditation and resilience building workshops, as well as kind of is training right now in conflict resolution.
And I mean, before I was looking at your bio on the website, and I would call you a dabbler. You have a million different things, and I mean that with the most respect. You have your hand in a lot of different things throughout the course of your life. I read acupuncturist, osteopath, herbs, yoga, mindfulness meditation, a whole bunch more. You're all over the place. I mean, tell me a little bit about how you got into such a diverse amount of fields.
Yeah, both my parents used to be doctors. My father was an Eastern doctor, practicing acupuncture and teaching meditation, and my mom was Western doctor. And you can hear you?
Yeah, we can hear you well.
And she passed when I was very young, so I had to go through a whole bunch of my own mental, emotional distress. And I guess this path through my young age till now brought me to all those places to learn and heal and grow for myself, and then give that back to others.
And maybe you can tell us a little bit about the practice you have with some mental health patients or clients that you have.
So with acupuncture, it's such a beautiful practice, because we can work like with the body, the physical body, the emotional body, and the spirit, the mental body, psychology. and I can or have echo. So I work with them on that level and also with meditation. And I think anxiety, stress, mental illness is like 2/3 of my practice. Yeah.
I think we have a question already.
Okay, so your first question is from Mary-Eve, and they are asking, can CBD oil replace antidepressants?
Oh,
that's a good one.
Okay, so we have a first question. Marie-Eve is asking us if CBD oil can replace antidepressants. Can CBD oil replace antidepressants? That's a great question. You should tune into our last live event.
So that's a really good because we did if you go on our Facebook page and go to the video section, scroll down, and a couple videos down is a 2-hour video that Sarah and I and another colleague of hers did all about marijuana. It was in October. We did it a week after marijuana was legalized in Canada, and we talked about basically everything we could in marijuana, and we touched on CBD oil quite a bit. Either you want to talk about it more, absolutely.
We can definitely just touch a little bit about it. And so CBD oil is something that's starting to be more and more used in even the medical world, and mostly has been kind of introduced for the research of certain cancer treatments. It's still in terms of research based, as well as certain element of cannabinoids based produce, so not necessarily oils, and that's been kind of shown to reduce a little bit of chronic pain. Mostly is the usage that is right now. When we talk about the Western medicine, one of the things we have to understand is the model of framework in which it's done. When we look at Western medicine, the first thing that from a doctor's point of view, you look at the evidences. Unfortunately, right now, the evidences in terms of the actual oil being used for depression, there's no good research on it. Is it going to come? Most probably, and it's going to be able to let us know a little bit more of whether or not for depression it is a use. What we see, though, is that cannabinoids do reduce a little bit of the level of anxiety, and you have to be very careful in terms of how much you use. And because one of the elements that could also produce is a bit of the amotivational syndrome that we talked about. So if you are using cannabinoid oil and you are in a depressive episode, I would recommend talking to your GP or your practitioner who you're involved with to just see if there's any other elements that could also be beneficial for you. Do you have
Sarah,
anything, Anne, to say?
did you say amotivational, like lack of motivation? Mm-hmm. That's so interesting because in Chinese medicine, the cannabis deplete the yang. So when I take the pulse of people who had been smoking for 20 years, let's say, the yang is very depleted. And the yang is the motivation, the chi, the energy. So that's interesting that also on your side of the spectrum.
More? Yeah, I have another question for you. Okay. From Carlos asking, is a ketogenic diet recommended for bipolar disorder treatment? Was ketogenic? Ketogenic. Okay. Is ketogenic, this is from Carlos, recommended for bipolar disorder?
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Carlos, for this very specific question. Again, please don't hesitate. Send us some messages and tell us what you want us to answer. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition, because I think that's a bit of what is being covered here. I don't know if everybody knows what ketogenic diet is. No?
Go over it.
Yeah, okay, so we'll go over the ketogenic diet. Ketogenic diet is basically the way that your body works is that you metabolize glucose. Once you metabolize glucose, you're going to be able to have a certain amount of energy that's going to be transformed, and you're going to be able to work or do whatever you want or play or love or, go through your day. But what happens when you're in a fasting state, you produce ketones. And so that's the whole purpose of the ketogenic diet, is actually to bring you in a metabolism of actually starvation. It's a diet that's mainly used so far in terms of research based on very, very severe intractable epilepsy. That's kind of like one of the very, very, very well kind of documented elements. But right now what has been coming up is that the ketogenic diet really reduces your insulin levels and allows your inflammation to go down. So people who are using ketogenic diet usually have a high fat, so they eat a lot of proteins, a lot of really big like butter, like very, very fat elements, and then they reduce all the carbs. So basically take out all the sugars that are present, and to turn into that kind of like very low blood glucose as well as ketones that are excreted. And there's a lot of research now, so much in the cognition side of it. So how does it improve the cognition? And it's actually very interesting because they see that without the inflammation that's being created, because insulin, the more you produce insulin, the more you're going to create kind of this inflammatory system in your body. And through that, you actually have a reduction of that inflammation. And so the cognitive decline that we see in a lot of the elderly patient is reduced. So that's kind of like the new research that's being kind of brought. But in terms of nutrition for bipolar disorder, there's very little that's being actually done. One of the things that's been proposed is actually the use of omega-3s. That's something that has been a bit more research and using those and that's kind of why the question is very good, because the ketogenic, you have to use a lot of fats. So having those omega-3s, those saturated fats, can be actually something that could be beneficial and has been kind of seen to prevent a little bit of the manic episodes. So if you supplement your diet with omega-3s, could be something that's beneficial. In terms of actually reducing the amount of manic or depressive episode just with the diet, I wish I could tell you, but so far there's no, again, I'm talking from the evidence point of view, but maybe Anne has some insights on this.
Anne?
Yeah, so working with those type of disorders, I work with the spleen, the earth element. So earth is the groundedness and the integrity. So in bipolar, it's often like that. So it's how to be like having the steadiness. And so working with nutrition, it's kind of similar of what you said, Sarah. And meditation is also very helpful to center the mind, which is real linked to the earth element. Yeah.
Tony, any more? No? Okay. Let's touch on, well, we were talking about diet, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with diet. Sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what, in generalities, sleep, does that affect mental illness?
Everything. Sleep basically affects everything. That doesn't just affect mental health, it affects like just physical health. It affects. So one of the things that I find very interesting in addressing alternative treatment or complementary treatment or integrated treatment, is this idea that like we, especially in this modern day and age, we actually have an increased amount of chronic stress. And I actually learned something today that I thought was kind of interesting. In the UK, they just started a ministry of loneliness.
Yes.
Okay, so we're at this point where like the government being like, oh, we need to address this feeling that like people are alone and stressed, and most probably also having a lot of difficulties dealing with this stress. And so when we have a high amount of stress level within our day-to-day life, what happens is that it impacts a lot the sleep. You have a dysregulation in terms of your sleep and awake cycles, and you also have a difficulty in terms of coming back to a mode where you're like lower in terms of your cortisol level and your ability to produce the sleep hormones that are necessary for you to have a good regulation. So definitely sleep is something that afterwards affects a lot of things, and we were talking just before about bipolar. One of the key elements in bipolar in terms of a manic episode is how little you sleep.
Right.
And that's just one of the criterias. So if we look at sleep, sleep needs to be something that we really focus on, and I'm really happy you're bringing it up. And I'll give you a little bit of things that can be done in terms of an alternative point of view, but I want Anne maybe to give a bit of information on her perception of sleep.
Yeah, I have a ring to track my sleep.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I have so it's very important, and I'm very aware of that. And I think we don't realize how bad sleep. And with the ring, you can even see deep sleep is very difficult to have. So with stress and diets, like nutrition, it affects all that also. Yeah, there's so much to say about sleep. I wouldn't know where to start. But sleeping before 10 p.m., it's very important in my view, in our perspective, because from 1 to 3 a.m. is the hour of the liver, and that's the moment of the day where the blood really rests and energetically gets clean. And when we go to sleep after midnight, we can't really be in deep sleep at that stage. So we're always being in this inflammatory pattern of having the blood never calming down fully. So what I recommend is always trying to sleep before 10 if we can, cutting all screens because the lead that we have in our screen is very bad for our brain. And yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, I read about the importance of turning your screen off at least an hour or two before bed. Yeah, which is something ubiquitous in our lives now, having our smartphone.
Yeah, and if you can't do that, there's this thing you can put on your screen, which is a yellow filter. It's called Flux, and I use that when I don't have the choice to be on the screen. At least it doesn't have this blue light.
like right
Yeah.
I'm on Francois' computer, and it doesn't have it.
I think we have a bunch more questions coming in. Yeah.
So I have two questions. We'll start with the first one, which is a more personal question from Mariette again. It says, my psychiatrist said that there's no way that I will be able to be functional without meds because I had several episodes of depression.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This question was a woman psychiatrist said, sorry. Oh, I see. Patient asking, would she be able to have a normal life without meds? And functional without meds. And the psychiatrist said would not be possible without meds.
So I'll word for
Yeah, sorry.
the psychiatrist
Yeah.
said there's no way that Mariette will be able to be functional without meds.
Right.
Because she just had several episodes of depression.
Right. Okay, so the psychiatrist said she wouldn't be functional without meds because she had several episodes of depression. Sorry, I'm not very good at verbatim. Yeah. 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 It's been a long day. Do you want to take this one?
Sure, I'll take that one. Thanks, Mahia, for reaching out. Depression is something that affects a lot of people and has very different ways of affecting people. In the worldview of the Western world is that when you have basically been with 3 or more depressive episodes that are distinct, the recommendations that have been done by the research is that you are recommended to stay on the medication because the chances of relapses are too high. And if you take off the medication, the risk is that you won't have necessarily the same response. That means that you're at risk of basically not being able to respond. Then, this is 2019. Things might change. We might see things differently. There might be new research that's going to come up, and there is also this doesn't oblige you to not try other things in terms of complementary treatment, and to have that dialogue with your doctor in order to do that. So all the things that we're talking about, if you feel there's something that is of interest, really try to do some research. One of the things that I find is really, really important in having these discussions is that there are certain treatments that are complementary and you can use with medication. There are certain treatments like a lot of like herbal remedies or different naturopathy well, drugs, if we want to call them that, but or just supplements that actually have an interactions with the medication. And you have to be careful about that. And it's very, very wise to actually go through like an alternative practitioner in order to have that kind of relationship between the two elements. Whether or not we're going to evolve in terms of getting to have more knowledge on this, I'm really hopeful. I think there's a lot of research that's coming up. So that's something to see in the future.
And something I wanted to mention, and it doesn't work for everyone, but CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, can be a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I can speak from that from personal experience. Yeah. And also support groups are another wonderful thing, something we have at AMI-Quebec, really popular and a really great sense of community. And, you know, we have them on Monday nights through the Jewish General Hospital, and other organizations have support groups as well. So there's a lot of different sources of help out there. Anne, was there anything you want to add for that question?
Yes, I'm seeing patients every month that I'm with them quitting the medication and they're fine. Now, I don't say everyone can do that, but I don't think the for life thing is always true.
Tony, more questions?
Okay, so I've got 3 questions.
Okay.
I'll give you 2 of them lumped together.
Sure.
You can choose to either address them separately or together.
Sure.
I think it could be related. So I have another question from Carlos. These are both related to BPD. So Carlos is asking
BAD?
where...
BAD or
BPD.
Right. Okay.
Bipolar disorder.
Borderline personality disorder or
Sorry, bipolar.
bipolar? Okay. Gotcha.
Too many initials.
Yeah.
Bipolar disorder. So he says where antidepressants are not recommended, what are the best ways to combat depression? That's from Carlos. Okay. And then I also have a question similar from Kelly, which is asking what would be the best complementary alternative treatments for BPD borderline. So maybe not the same.
Okay.
Okay. Can you repeat the one question at a time?
We'll do them separately, yeah. Okay.
Carlos says, where antidepressants are not recommended, what are the best ways to combat depression?
Okay.
With bipolar disorder?
Okay. So question from Carlos, where antidepressants are not recommended, what is the best way to combat depression and bipolar disorder? Okay.
And do you want to start this one? Because I realize I'm always starting.
I like when you start. I start. The thing that popped to me is there are so many people that have going through mental illnesses and are suffering, and it's hard to be just alive in this society. But in another perspective, the society is sick itself, and yeah, so it's not just about you as human, it's also about the system, and sometimes it's almost healthy to be so sick into the world we're living. It's like insane.
Yeah, I definitely agree that one of the things that I also like about AMI-Quebec is you guys take a systematic approach to things and makes a realization that there's a lot of people who are living similar conditions because of a bit of the illness that is the society in which we are.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Did you want to address that question further? Yeah.
Well, So for the depression elements of BAD, or bipolar, sorry. One of the things that we have to be really kind of looking at is what are the different things that go up and go down. And Anne was just talking about like this idea of coming into a groundedness and coming to a place where we're able to find a center in which we're able to understand what are the triggers that are going to happen, what are the triggers that are going to lead to more of a depressive state or more of a manic state. And that gets to like a lot of what the wellness kind of trend, I guess we would call it, is coming up, is because we're starting to understand that one of the main things is to know yourself. So to know yourself is really to understand what are the things that are happening in your life? What are the things that are happening outside your life that you don't have control? We're just talking about like societal illness. Like what are the things that you have control of versus no control of? And that's a very, very big exploration that can be done in many, many different ways. Once you control a little bit of that kind of environment of around you and also are able to reflect inside, then there's again, from the Western point of view, the most essential place is to really allow for the maintenance. So basically to kind of prevent when episodes are going to happen. So if you start seeing, for example, that your sleep's not doing so well, okay, what can I do about that? Why is my sleep kind of like becoming more and more like, not restorative? Why is it that I'm not sleeping as well? And I think one of the things that I see a lot with the patients that I've been following in terms of BAD or bipolar is that they have to be really careful about the sleep. So once you start seeing that the sleep is kind of off, then you have to wonder, okay, what are the things that I can do to monitor my sleep? So we can talk, and we're going to talk about a little bit of these things. So like there's certain elements that you can do for. So we talked about sleep hygiene a little bit, which is so crucial. Try to go to bed early, not do screens for a while. But then also what you can also help yourself is there's certain different aids that you can have. One of them is melatonin. So melatonin is a naturally occurring hormone that is secreted by your pineal gland. So like the gland that's like right between here, like in the middle, and it circulates. It kind of like regulates your circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm is like how you go to bed and how you wake up. And so sometimes if you use it, it can actually be very, very helpful. So that's something that you can try to monitor. In order of like treating the actual depressive episodes, that can become a bit more tricky. Especially because we know that if like the symptoms are well stabilized with a mood stabilizer, sometimes it can be something that's like quite improved in terms of the prevention. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question. If you have more specific things that you want us to touch upon, we can definitely do.
What was the second question? I think it was from Kelly.
Hey, you know what? We're
Gonna jump ahead.
order so I don't get them lost because we've got.
Oh, we got a few? Great. Good. Questions is good.
Yeah, questions are great. So the next question is from Sarah.
Yep.
Sarah asks, someone I know who has been proven to be more stable on meds for mental health desperately wants to be off meds.
Right.
Is there a quick way to stabilize moods without medication?
Okay, so Sarah has a friend who's been stabilized more on meds and wants to get off meds. What was the last part of the question? Is there a quick indicator? Yeah, is there a quick way to stabilize the moods without meds?
Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's hard. Well, what mood are we talking about?
Yeah.
If Sarah, you can send us another little update of what mood we can talk a little bit more specifically, that would be great. I hope you're still with us. Your question is very relevant, so just let us know. And then we'll go through the... Yeah, if you respond, we'll answer your question. We'll just go to the next question for now.
Okay, so the next one is from Kelly, and she is asking, what would be the best complementary or alternative treatments for BPD
So Kelly is asking us what's the best and most efficient complementary treatment for BPD.
Yeah, just say what BPD is.
Oh yeah, so so BPD, not to confuse with BAD, which we were just doing, is it's a borderline personality disorder. Again, we can have a whole discussion of what that means. In terms of just defining it right now for the sake of our interactions and for the people who are listening, we understand borderline personality disorder as someone that's very, very creative, but also very, very sensitive, and will go on highs and lows within one day, feeling very, very impulsive, needing to do kind of like action to feel alive, having difficulty dealing with anger, having a lot of chronic suicidal ideation, self-harm, difficulty with like relationships, and also this feeling that like the reasons to live is not so concrete, and it becomes kind of this feeling of like just, we call it a bit of chronic emptiness. This is in like 30 seconds. And it's actually pretty amazing. I had the chance to work at a program on using this type of therapy that's called dialectical behavioral therapy.
Yes.
It's actually not like, well, again, the fine line between what is complementary, what is alternative, what is integrated, again, or using a whole bunch of words that sometimes I put them all together. And in terms of integrated medicine, the elements that's present in dialectical behavioral therapy is this huge component on understanding what does it mean to regulate emotions. And how to regulate emotion is really, really, really important. And sometimes we forget that this is a tool and actually a way of living that we just haven't been taught. And so we've been in an environment that's extremely stressful, with parenting that weren't responsive and validating, and we have to now, in our 15, 20, 30, 40s, 60s, learn these tools that maybe we weren't able to master when we were younger. So dialectical behavioral therapy is really wonderful, like in terms of actual results for patients with that diagnosis. And that's the only reason that I actually like that diagnosis, is because it gives us an opportunity to know which ones would be beneficial. And the woman who's actually started that therapy herself had been misdiagnosed with many different things and created this whole wave of kind of, we call it a third wave of cognitive behavioral therapy, which incorporates a lot of Buddhism. And so maybe we can talk a little bit about, Anne, about what are the meditation practices in terms of coming into ground and regulating a bit of the emotions.
So we have been learning, talking a lot about mindfulness meditation, and that is coming to the West a lot. But that's just one part of what is meditation. So in meditation, we have mindfulness, which is staying present and staying focused, and awareness practices. So both are meditating. And awareness is being able to have a 365 view on the context, perspective. So for people with a lot of anxiety, it's good to open up and have space around the situation. And for people with stress, good to practice mindfulness. But oftentimes people which are depressive or anxious, doing mindfulness meditation can increase the anxiety. And so that's, there is a mindfulness MBCT, which is, melting those two, mindfulness and awareness, which is different from MBSR, which is, more famous, but, a bit lacking some space around the practice. And, I also practice social meditation, which is, for me, the most relevant and powerful practice to release emotions, which is with a group and another individual, which gives us a mirror, a way to project out our emotions, sometimes alone in the cushion, it's not that easy to release emotion. It's good to focus, to center, to give space, and then the emptiness doesn't feel that bad anymore. It's more like a feeling of fullness and emptiness in the same time. But then with social meditation, I've seen a lot of beneficial, like emotional releases.
Yeah, just to interject, at AMI-Quebec, getting back to our programs, we have several BPD, borderline personality disorder, related programs for caregivers. We have a BPD validation workshop coming up, and an introduction to BPD that we hold a few times a year so people can get basic knowledge about what borderline personality disorder is. And also, we have a monthly workshop called BPD for caregivers on Monday nights. So that schedule is all on our website, amiquebec.org. And yeah, we have a whole bunch more. We also have, I'll let one of the out of the bag, we have mindfulness meditation returning in May, I believe, with a very popular program. So you have to register early for that. So yeah, we try to really address things holistically, help people in as many ways as we can. Tony, any more questions coming in?
Yeah. So I have a question from Diane. I'll read it to you so you can the whole thing. So she says, I'm wondering about depression and PTSD.
Okay.
I tried antidepressants after my daughter who had BPD died via suicide over 4 years ago. Cannot get myself totally back on my feet. Any alternative treatments, therapy, or support groups that could help?
Okay, so this is from Diane. I'll just try to paraphrase. She's dealing with depression and PTSD. She had a daughter who committed suicide 4 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that. And she's looking for alternative treatments for dealing with this.
You're looking at me, but Anne is also here. So we're physically remote. And I'm Diane, thank you so much for reaching out. I can't even start to imagine what it's like. You're coming to a good place, though, because AMI-Quebec is offering a lot of support. They have amazing, again, like Mark is going to do his spiel, but I do it for him too, because I really see that there's a big benefit for people who come to AMI-Quebec and get like that kind of support group. It's dealing with grief and dealing with loss is one of the things that's, I think, the hardest in life. And it's something that brings us through a whole journey that can be, in that sense, bring a lot of depression. And when that depression becomes kind of too intense for the grief to actually be processed, then it becomes kind of problematic. I hope that you have like some resources that you have in terms of a GP that you can go to just to make sure that the depression is not to the state where you're feeling that life is not worth living. If not, please don't hesitate to go to the ER. There's people who are there to listen and to be present at any point. If it's not, we're not talking about that severity of symptoms. I'm very happy that you're coming here to have a discussion with us. And if you have more questions about how we don't answer necessarily what you're saying, I think it's important to let us know. But we can maybe touch base on different things that can be present in terms of how to address grief or how to address also those elements. And maybe I'll let Anne talk a little bit and I'll tell you a bit about the ideas I have.
Sadness and grief is often categorized with depression, but that's such a natural emotion. I mean, how can't we be sad? And death is part of life. And there are situations that make this death more traumatic. And I just pausing because I know Diane is listening, and I'm feeling sadness also. And I think it's good to be okay with that emotion. I I remember when years ago I was going through a lot of sadness, and I had a friend, which he wasn't a friend at that time, but I thought that the sadness will kill me. It was about my mom committing suicide. And he just told me, what, what happens if you just let it be? And I felt a sense of release, actually. It didn't kill me. And I've touched into a sense of emptiness, to the wholeness and the fullness of the emotion. And I don't say it's something we can do alone. I've done it by myself, but I have practices in meditation. But I'm pretty sure that there are, what worked for me had been meditating and doing social meditation and really embracing the reality and difficulty of life and accepting that and transforming that into a sense of resilience and rebirth. It's hard, but it made me so stronger, and this heart that is broken open is also such a door to receive and give love. So I hope you'll find your way to that.
Diana, so in terms of our resources at AMI-Quebec, one of our newest workshops is called Acceptance and Letting Go, and it's very much about the grieving process. And I highly recommend that. I believe we're having another one in a month or two. And also our depression group is very, very popular. We also have an anxiety group. And I find they tend to go very much hand in hand. The term people use is comorbidity. So you could try the depression group or the anxiety group. And we also have a group called Kaleidoscope, which is for anyone with mental illness, any diagnosis. We don't have anything specifically for PTSD, but you can always call AMI-Quebec and talk to one of our administrative assistants. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and they can lead you to resources for PTSD. Anything else?
Yeah, well, so we're talking about a little bit of and thank you, Anne, for sharing also just from your experience and touching onto the idea that sadness is an emotion that is part of our life, and that we have to find ways to embrace it. And sometimes that journey into embracing it is the journey, and we have to be patient. So there's certain tips that you can try to find in terms of coming to a place for it. And there's a lot of different natural herbs that you can take in terms of trying to find a place of more relaxation. So people use in the class of like the mints, so peppermint, lemon balm, lavender is something that usually is a calming and allows for the nervous system to kind of settle down. And there's also ones for sleep, like valerian. Again, all these herbs, you have to be careful if you take any blood thinner to not use them, or if you have any other like medications. There are some interactions, so just make sure when you go pick them up. Usually in the natural food stores have a person that you can ask those questions, and are usually very, very well versed in it. And you can tell them if you're taking any medications. So that's something to just kind of release a bit of the high anxiety that sometimes can be around the emotional elements. And doing anything that's self-soothing, like baths, people do like shavasana, so yoga restoration pose where you're just lying down, and do yoga nidras as well, is sometimes will allow you to release a little bit of the kind of anxious anxiety that's surrounding why the grief process can be difficult. Those are all things you can do by yourself, but really, again, it's a question of sometimes we just need to be witnessed. And to be witnessed is something that's very, very vulnerable, because we're basically opening the can of worm and being like, "Ooh, this is yucky. I don't know if I want to see it, and maybe I should just close a box and then just like leave it there and push it to later." And to do that, so you have to find someone where you can really relate to and have an interaction with, that you can open those emotions with and you can feel received. There's some, you can go on L'Ordre des Psychologues of Quebec and see if there's someone that you feel like might be more relatable to you. But you can also go to the Argyle Institute, which is a great resource that a lot of Montrealers don't know about, but it's basically a sliding scale psychotherapy institute, and so depending on how much income you make, you can actually have a pretty low payment every time. And that's something that's also very, very nice too, because they're very experienced people, or sometimes they're just starting, but you'll really see and engage whether or not you feel like might be a person that you're relating to. So these are certain little tips to do, and if you're able to go through this. And also, just as Marc was saying, just AMI-Quebec is really there's a few places in Montreal that are specialized and have been holding space for people to go through these.
Tony, any more questions? Okay. Keep sending us questions and comments. And Sarah, I think it was Sarah had not modified her question yet. So if she gets back on, if she comes back on, please give us an update on your question. But I wanted to talk about exercise. We haven't really talked about that much. Anne, exercise?
Yeah. So again, a lot of what's happening in the mind is linked with what's happening in our body. And the mind-centeredness, as I said earlier, is linked with the earth element, which is our ground. And the earth, which is the sun, is released.
We lost you.
You lost what?
Oh, we lost your audio for a few seconds.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Is it good now?
Yeah, just start over your sentence.
Okay, so the earth element is released with our extremities. So oftentimes when we caught in the storyline and it's just like repeating and repeating, moving, it really helps the mind to get started again, because it helps the earth element to be liberated. Also with emotions. Emotions in Chinese medicine are processed by the liver. So liver processes toxins and physical toxins, but also emotional toxins. And toxins are not emotions are not toxic until they stagnate. If they're flowing, that's good. But when it's stagnating, then it's engorgé, the liver. And the liver is opening into the tendons. So again, moving release the liver energy. And oxygenation, maybe Sarah can talk more about the western side, but it's always good to move.
Well, yeah, I love having these discussions with Anne, because I always feel like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. But you're like, yeah, you really have to make sure the emotions flow. That's part of the thing. It's something that's kind of we're basically sedentary in our lifestyle. I just think about myself. I'm like, if I don't walk at least 45 minutes, or even do a short 15-minute exercise in my day, I feel it in the way I sleep. I feel it the way I just go through the day. I feel more irritable. I feel like I'm kind of having less capacity to engage with people. And I think the elements of exercise that we see more and more is not only that does it allow you to have a better cardiovascular system, it actually allows you to feel better about yourself. And so now they're realizing more and more that the small amounts of exercises, so you can just do 15-minute high-intensity exercise and have the same benefits of doing a whole full workout. So it's really about trying to maximize the buck for your money, or I think is the expression.
Bang for your buck.
Bang for your buck. Yeah, the buck for your money doesn't work. You'll see I make sometimes weird words because I don't always know. But yeah, so the kind of vitality that you cultivate in your life is also part of how you treat your body. And if you treat your body in a way that basically is overstressed, overworked, no time for yourself, no time to like actually spend a little bit of moment just to indulge in whatever you feel, like activity that brings you joy, then a lot of time what you see is a negative effect. So we see diabetes, obesity, we see also the amount of like difficulty in self-esteem, which is I think something that's also very, very important. So all these things become kind of skewed in your kind of ways of dealing with your emotions.
And I want to add something about emotions. Is that when something doesn't move, like life is about movement. When something doesn't move in our body wants to move it. And when we don't want it to move because it's the painful emotion or something we don't want to see, the body keeps wanting to move it, and it creates inflammation. And that inflammation is like this little fire, this little like anxiety or emotion, which is like cooking under, like, let's say water, and then the water is running down and down and down. So this fire, emotional stagnation, make our yin, which is our water, blood, going lower and lower and lower. And the yin, our physical body, is what grounded the spirit, the mind. So because we have this stagnation, then we have less blood, less yin, and then the mind is not grounded anymore. Then we have more anxiety. So it's like a circle that we can right away easily cut with just always never forgetting moving at least the body, even if the emotion doesn't want to move. At least moving your body is always a good 911 action when you don't know what to do. Like, go to the gym.
But I think I've read studies on depression. They've just had groups where they had people run a couple miles a week, and it had major effects on certain people with depression.
Yeah. So if we talk about like just mild to moderate depressions, where you can actually mobilize yourself and you're not just in your bed unable to actually feel like the capacity to move, we see that exercises like running or even going for walks in the park or being in, like, one of my favorite things in Montreal is the fact that we have the Montreal that was designed by Olmsted, who's basically his whole vision, and he also designed Central Park. His whole vision was that people need to spend a lot of time in green spaces. So if you notice like the way that the mountain is kind of done, it's actually like all these like curves that you don't really know where you're going to go unless you know the little shortcuts. But you know, someone who's walking is actually taking more time in green spaces. And so his whole idea was that people need to spend time in green. Well, he was right.
Yes.
But like we're seeing more and more the fact that like people who spend more time in nature, who do things that really make them kind of like, again, we're talking about, you know, being in places that you like, that you feel like more engaged with, that you feel like you're also receiving oxygen that's a bit more like, well, we can say a bit less polluted than other places, can actually be beneficial in terms of like those mild to moderate depressions.
And it's hard to live in a society where, you know, it's so crowded. There are like so many human beings, but on the other hand, you can't show your emotion because it's not in our culture. So you're stuck with that, and you cut from the earth because it's like all covered up, and you don't even see the sky anymore. So it's like highly stressful. It's like, wow, how can you function? And maybe it's a good thing that we can't function anymore, and we realize that maybe we need more trees, and we should stop cutting trees.
Yeah.
You know?
More trees is always a good thing.
And there's a practice in Japan which is called forest bathing. You know, that it's a therapy. And there is something magical into a tree that we can't buy with money.
No, I agree. Tony, do we have more? No? I'm going to throw this one out there. What about technology? What about things like phone apps as an alternative treatment?
Yeah, and okay, if people are just joining, we're talking about complementary, alternative, integrated, holistic treatment of mental health. Do not hesitate to ask us questions. We're here for you. we want to listen and to your questions, and as best as we can in our ability to find ways to guide you in different directions. And we're really, really happy to be present. I'm Sara. I'm a resident in psychiatry, and we have Anne, who's an acupuncturist and a meditation practitioner and guide. So in terms of phone apps, we can go in so many directions in this, because there is like apps everywhere. So many apps, so many apps, and some of them are great. Like, I've started using like phone trackers just to see how often I spend on my phone, and I was quite shocked of how much time I actually spend on the screen. I'm like, no, I don't spend that much time on the phone, but yes, I do. But yeah, there's a few meditation practices that are actually very, very nice. And do you have ones that you recommend?
Yeah, my patients I don't use phone apps, but my patient like Petit Bamboo. I think it's an app. Cohérence cardiaque, also the phone. There's an app when you like follow a ball and then you're breathing with the ball. It looks pretty cool. I have this thing, which gives me insights about my activity, sleep levels, heartbeat, if I doesn't too much or not enough, which is good for like my holistic wellness. I know those Fitbits. I don't know if it's the same, but I know this one is more holistic than just Fit. I don't know if you have other apps recommendations.
Yeah, there's a few ones that I find that are quite useful. There's this one for insomnia that's called CBTI, CBT for insomnia, and that actually gives you like tricks on how to install a sleep routine that's actually like a bit more like monitoring your sleep, how often you stay in bed, things that we use in kind of cognitive behavioral therapy, so you can kind of do it on your own and see how you can improve your sleep. So that's called CBT for insomnia. There's a few also on the two that I recommend for mindfulness is Headspace and Mindspace.
Yeah, I can speak a little about Headspace. I used it for a few months, and there's actually a free trial version I think you can download for a week or so, and it's actually the official. I don't know how much you know about professional sports, but the National Basketball Association is really being very pioneering a lot of things in terms of mental health awareness, and it's the official mindfulness app of the entire league. So thousands of people, players, and staff of the league use it. And basically, it's recommended to use it first thing in the morning, and it's a 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute app, and it kind of slowly guides you towards getting a meditation practice. And it's very simple. It's for some person who's never done mindfulness or meditation before, and really walks you very easily through it and uses very simple analogies and kind of stories to get you going. And I recommend trying it, even just for a few days.
So yeah, so that's one of them that's kind of like easily accessible for mindfulness. And thank you, Mark, for like telling us about your experience. It's helpful because it gives you a bit of that capacity to go through steps that maybe you might not do, because if you go to a meditation group, but again, we're losing a bit of the connectivity. So that's always something that I find is difficult, is how do we balance the fact that we are most of the time alone on a screen, and maybe some of the thing that we actually need to be doing is stepping outside of our phone and our screen into relational experiences, which can be relational with people, relational with the sky, relational with anything that surrounds you that's not necessarily the technology. So that's a bit of the only element that I find maybe that's the contraindication a little bit of the apps is this helping you kind of go out of your bubble and go into get a bigger social network. Because one of the things that we know for all of mental health is how important is your social network. Okay, and I say social network, it can be very broad term, but how many people do you have close to you who you can rely on? And a lot of time what happens is that we end up in a lot of different ways when we're feeling down, stepping out of those places and being like, actually, I don't want you to suffer from my illness, or I don't want you to like feel bad because I'm not doing well. And that's something that we have to learn as a society. Again, that's why groups like AMI-Quebec are doing wonderful work, is that they're saying, no, we can actually engage together and learn from each other and be present for another and collectively deal with these issues that is not just an individual issue, but a collective one. So that's why the apps, we can recommend them, but we also recommend kind of engaging with a practitioner, maybe like a healer of like, natural medicine, or like a Western psychiatrist. There's a wide range of people you can work with. Again, make sure in any elements, make sure you make your own kind of like discussions with the practitioner you're working with. There's interactions in all the different medicines, and you just have to be knowledgeable about what you're using, what are the side effect profile, and what are the interactions that are happening between the two things. If you're using, again, this is gonna I have like every time I come, I have like little like take home messages. If you're using natural products, make sure that you know what they are, and make sure you know what you're taking also on the side. I was doing a bit of research before coming here on different, St. John's wort, like people use it for depression. And the research is actually showing that there is some benefits of St. John's wort. It's a plant that actually grows and buds at Saint Jean-Baptiste, so that's why it's called St. John's. Yeah, and so it's actually something that is quite better than placebo. And the thing, though, is that it can produce some manic symptoms. So what are manic symptoms? Just so that you know. So if you're going to use it, you're a bit aware. Try to see if you understand the symptoms before you start using those medications. So manic symptoms are symptoms where you feel the contrary of depressed. So you have more energy, you feel grandiose, you don't sleep as much, you feel kind of like on a high, you speak faster, and people are saying, why are you speaking so fast? And your thoughts are racing. So these are things that you want to kind of monitor when you're starting something. And so that's, again, a lot of it is like knowledge is power, and that's what I always say when I come here, is like the more you inform yourself, the better you're going to understand which one are things that work for you or not.
Well, reflecting back what Sarah was saying about, the power of these phone apps, that obviously there's a diversity of them, but the isolating factor of them versus the power of the group. And it's interesting because I've been with AMI and I tell this story kind of often, I've been with AMI for over 3 years, and I read our support group. You have to fill out a little survey at the end of each group and all of our workshops and everything. I've read over 3,000 of these things over the last 3 years, and probably the one thing I read the most often is I am not alone. And that's the power of the group, the power of community. When you actually get out of your house into an organization like us, you actually get to meet people going through very similar things, or even the same thing as you. And it just is just this sense of really breaking from that despair and realizing there's other people going through things, and that you can actually help each other heal. It's a very empowering thing, and that's something you can't get really from a phone app. But yeah, there are definitely pluses of that when you can't, or you have 15 minutes, or you're doing this on your lunch break, or what have you. Different pluses and minuses, so they're worth exploring and talking to your doctor about as well. Tony, more questions? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going back to the sleep conversation. Mm-hmm. He says he goes to bed early, but in the morning it's very hard to get out of bed and start the day. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Right. So this is another question from Carlos. Thanks for sticking around for the last hour. Goes to bed early and still having trouble getting out of bed and starting his day. Anne, any suggestions for?
Yeah, sometimes we can look around nutrition, like how like is what you're eating optimal for you? Like if there is any symptoms of digestive, like bloating or gas or reflux, that's not. There's something he's eating that's not good for him, and that can make the body heavy in the morning. That can be one avenue. Another thing can be exercising more to make the energy move. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't hear the last sentence that you said.
Yeah, so another thing could be exercising more. I don't know if you're doing exercise, but that also can make the energy moves and make the mornings more like alive. Yeah, moving during the day.
One of the things that is kind of interesting in terms of insomnia is that a lot of time we think that going to bed early is actually going to shift a bit of our sleep. But if we don't get out of bed, and I love that you're saying that, if we don't get out of bed at a certain time, then it's going to be very hard for us to actually have a good sleep. So one of the things that we recommend is really, if at 6, you put your alarm at 6:30 and try to find a way to wake up at 6:30, and that's the difficult part. And so I'm so happy that you're saying that. That means that you're really trying to see how you can be impacted on your sleep. I think one of the elements also Anne was saying about like kind of the physical health. What are the different factors that are being impacted, and is your sleep restorative? So are you snoring at night? You know, like, so is there a history of sleep apnea in your family? So maybe you can ask around in your family, because those are factors that are important in terms of maybe the reason that you're having difficulty sleeping is because you have some elements of apnea in your sleep. That could be something to look into. And as well as like, are there certain things that you go to sleep with that are kind of bringing you a bit of anxiety? So sometimes what I recommend people doing is, instead of going to bed with a whole bunch of questions, have already a number of things that you know you're going to be doing for your day, so that your day is motivated to be waking up. So starting to do something that you want to do in the morning. I know for myself, I tried to stop drinking cafe. I don't actually, usually don't drink coffee, so I drink mate. And for me, my little routine of drinking a mate in the morning and taking like half an hour to just like be by myself and just super restful is actually a motivation to get up. So to find something that makes you feel like you're like, oh yes, I am so excited, like I want to wake up, it might also play a little trick on your mind.
I actually do the same thing. But with coffee. I actually set my clock for 20, 30 minutes and put it away, put everything away, and just like do my thing. And it's like the best part of my day. And so if I do that first thing, it really motivates me to get up in the morning. Anne, anything you do?
Oh, I to wake up. I have this superpower that I wake up when I wake up. I'm like, I'm, I don't drink. I think I have like a specific diet. Uh, the parents had. So no dairies, no coffee, no chocolate, no sugar. So I'm like the spring. I'm like, I'm awake. 100% here. But cutting dairies is something that I recommend a lot because first it's a lot of phlegm, and phlegm may make the mind heavy and the body heavy. So that can be one easy avenue to test when you don't know.
You were saying cutting dairy, right? I'm just
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Tony, any more questions? We're good?
Just a cat comment from Willa.
Yeah.
That her cats get her.
Yeah, her cats.
Maybe
Yeah.
Carlos should get some cats.
Yeah. My mom is the same thing. Yeah, sorry, a comment that one of our audience members' cats wake her up in the morning. And my mom is the same. Okay, we've gotten through a lot of the things that I had to bring up so far, except for our new program stuff. Do you have anything that I didn't touch on yet, Sarah?
Well, I had done my little usual, like
We've
talking
never spoken about social media at all, by the way.
of social media. I know we had a wonderful discussion, if you want to check out, on social media addiction. And it was quite an entertaining 2 hours, for me at least. I don't know if you found it entertaining, but I was using my phone as a little reminder of research that I had done, and I actually took a bit of notes on certain different herbal remedies because I thought people might have questions about herbal remedies, and I wanted to know a little bit more about it myself. And again, I'm coming from a lens, and I'm going to repeat it because I think it's important. I'm coming from a lens where I've been trained in the kind of university psychiatry, medical training of our modern society. So these are things that I've pulled from that lens also, and have looked at just the evidences. I'm saying that evidence word because you have to understand that the way that this kind of systematic reviews are, they're research based, and a lot of the research, unfortunately, on holistic integrated health is sparse. So it's not that necessarily they don't work, is that the way that we're researching them might not be the best way. So that's something that's super important because I struggle a lot of time with that when people ask me directly, and I'm like, well, I know that it works in some cases. You just have to find the person that works for you, you know? And we don't have a systematic, you know, like a lot of like the psychotherapy research, they've become manualized. And if we look at non-manualized treatment like psychodynamic, psychoanalytic psychotherapy, it's very long, but kind of like from the Freudian point of view, the research sucks, but people still do it and still get benefits and go for therapy for 10 years. So we have to understand that these concepts are different ways. So anyway, so that's my little preemptive spiel to what I'm going to say now. So I was looking at like a little bit of what can enhance a bit of brain function. And I'm so happy that Anne is here to give more of her experience because she's had so much experience in many different ways in helping patients and clients go through like depression and anxiety symptoms. So one of the things that I thought was interesting is the ginkgo biloba. Do you use it, Anne, in your practice?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? Because I don't use it.
It's part of plants that I give people, like ginkgo, ginseng, ginger, all tonics. But especially ginkgo and ginger are also very grounding. Yeah.
So one of the things that, in terms of the Western approach, is that they're anti-inflammatory and reduce the amount of cell damage. So in terms of brain functioning, they've been actually shown to increase the blood flow in the brain and allow for the stimulation of your brain metabolism to be present. So in terms of cognition, in terms of your capacity as like what Anne was saying, a bit of toning is something that's been demonstrated. Just as a side note, make sure again that you know what you're taking with that. It can thin your blood. So if you're using blood thinning agents, that's something that you have to look into. And also if you are using trazodone, which is an antidepressant used for insomnia, there's been some cases of coma. So that's just some elements. Ginseng, we are talking about, also is something that's used in terms of toning and improves the kind of like antioxidant activity as well in your brain. These are things that I thought were very interesting because I think we can use a lot of those supplements in our life in a very, again, knowledgeable way. Knowledge, power. Make sure that you talk to people before using these medicine so that you make sure that you understand what they are. And how do you go around to it?
Yeah, because a plant with ginseng, you need to have someone that gives it to you because it can increase insomnia for some people. Mm-hmm. When there's the yin deficiency that I talked earlier, ginseng is not good. So I like sacred basil. Sacred basil is safe.
Which one?
Sacred basil.
Sacred basil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the holy basil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Holy basil.
Yeah. So holy basil is an infusion you can take, and also is kind of like calming.
Yeah.
That's something that can be present. So, but we do want to touch on certain of the things that people hear about, because we all hear about, oh, it's ginseng I can just take and go through my day. Again, this is something that you have to be careful about. You have to have discussions. If you're on old school antidepressant, it can actually be bring more agitation.
Yeah.
If you're on blood thinning, again, if you're on diabetic medication, you can actually have hypoglycemia. So your blood sugar goes down. So again, we're talking about these things because we want to engage in the discussion, but you have to be careful and just make sure that you're actually followed by professionals.
Yeah, something like with astragal. People, it's like this big trend around astragal, but also it can be too tonic for some people and make insomnia and agitation.
So that's astragal is I think a bark or a mushroom, is it?
It's a bark.
Bark, yeah.
Yeah.
And are we having any other questions? Because we can continue. Okay, so we'll continue a little bit about different elements that are there. We live in Canada, and our occupied territories of Canada. But we don't get that much sun exposure in the winter. So one of the discussions is about vitamin D. Anne?
Yeah, I recommend vitamin D. It's like people say, yeah, but you can have it during the summer, and the native didn't take vitamin D. But native people that were living here they were often going south during the winter, and second, during the summer they were all exposed to the sun. They were having sunscreen, no hat, not that much clothing. Yes, you can have vitamin D in and keep that for the winter if you basically all the summer without sunscreen outside with no hat. But that doesn't happen that often now.
So it doesn't happen that often.
No.
And so to explain to you a little bit what vitamin D does is that it protects a bit of your nerve cells. So it allows for nerve cells to develop and to grow. So in terms of mental health, if we understand the nervous system as a big part of it, vitamin D is actually very essential. And as we're in Quebec and in Canada, that amount of capacity to have it because vitamin D is basically only created in our body if we have enough sun exposure. So you can supplement yourself with some vitamin Ds. Again, make sure to talk to a practitioner before you do it. You can increase your calcium levels, and that can be a bit dangerous depending on what issues you have, and actually have a bit of difficulty with your kidneys in terms of excretion. So again, make sure that you talk to someone in order to do that. But we know that actually vitamin D does have some help in terms of depression. So that's something that can be also be thought about.
Bit of a side note, but an interesting podcast I listened to recently called Nocturne discussed Scandinavian countries who are colder than Canada, have less sunlight in the winter than Canada, but lower rates of depression and mental illness than places in Canada. They found one of the major factors was attitude towards the winter and snow.
What?
Attitude. They encourage it. They have festivals. They have family meetings. They light the candles and have meals and cozy events together. They kind of invite it into their lives, whereas, a Montreal or a Saskatchewan might be just complaining about it being minus 35 all the time. So it's something about the attitude in the sense of, making the most of a situation you're in, and using your sense of family and community and getting outside and competing in events and having traditional meals related to the weather and the seasons. It definitely affects the way of life in Scandinavia compared to places like here.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you're bringing this up because I always find it so surprising. I live in Montreal and I love the city, and I actually love every season, including winter. And I'm always amazed about how we tend to complain about how cold our winter are, and then when the summer I've complained about how hot our summers are. And I was like, and I'm always kind of like boggled by it. But there's this kind of again, I really like the approach that's given by DBT. If you haven't been following us since the beginning of our talk, DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy. And one of the great examples that one of my teacher gave me the other day is the attitude that you take on the life that you have becomes crucial. And that's going to be so important in so many ways that you're going to go interact with your way. So if you're able to go through the cold outside and put your mind frame in a way that is embracing and accepting. So you can go through your day by putting the hood and being like, this is so cold, I hate this, and feel the cold. You basically are attuning yourself to how cold it is, versus if you step out and hopefully you're well dressed and you have your coat and you're actually able to just be like, oh, let me see how it feels to just take it in, feel how cold it is, and feel the freshness of how invigorating it is and how alive I feel, and see how different that practice is. And that's actually one of the practices they do in trying to understand how we validate certain feelings or not, and becomes kind of like important in how we deal with the world.
It makes me think of going into labor. You know, when you have contraction and then there is this like time of release, and when you're thinking about the next contraction, like you are having all this anxiety, and when during the contraction you're like resisting it, it's like so much painful, like much more painful. And when you just accept it, it's just like going like much more easier. So women have this kind of initiation.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And before, I think we have a question, but I just wanted to just spin off a little bit of what Anne was just saying. And they looked at the meditation practitioner and what makes them have that kind of level of capacity to keep their brain wave at a specific. We didn't touch upon this, but actually practicing meditation changes the brain waves in which you are, and actually changes the way that you relate to the world. And they were kind of amazed by this finding. So they were like, asked some Buddhist monks to be able to go through torture experiments. And one of them was the waterboarding, or I don't know if it's waterboarding, but like the one where you have basically like a drop of water that comes. I don't know if that's waterboarding. What is that?
That's just water torture.
Water torture. So just water torture. And they looked at how their brain reacted to it. And what was actually very interesting is that the way that their brain took in the experiment was every time it was a new one. So they saw the drop of water as every time a new drop, and not seeing it as a repetitive element that's making it the torture. And so that's how they see that the way that we actually work through our brain and allow for certain circuitry to be present is actually something that we can put into place by practice. Again, don't try to practice meditation when you're being tortured. But if you have,
That's such a good example because, you know, depression is about the past and anxiety is about the future, and meditation is about now, and always a new now, and being fresh and spontaneous. And it's a good example. My father was a monk. He was a Buddhist monk when he started at age 7, and he went through the Vietnam War and got tortured. And I remember when I was a child, he was telling us those stories, and meditation had saved his life, actually.
Wow.
Because he could remain now.
Yeah, I mean the power of meditation. That's amazing. Tony, I think we had another question coming in.
Yeah, so in line with other things you can talk about is, does supplementing magnesium help with anxiety?
Okay. New question. Supplementing magnesium, does that help with anxiety?
When there is like iron and B12 and magnesium, I often find them good when there is anxiety or yin deficiency, like for yin deficiency, because there can be anxiety in Chinese medicine in the energetical lens, which are other syndromes that come with the same symptoms, but then in the energetic tableau, it can be different. But for yin deficiency, I found that useful. But I need to see you to know.
That's super. Again, if you're tuning in, or I'm going to keep repeating this, we need to see you
Good.
to really sure. We need to be able to see you to really be sure that these are specific for you. You can actually have magnesium deficiency in itself, and your blood test will show it. So that's definitely something that could be a cause of depression that you have to look at. If you don't have the magnesium deficiency in terms of the Western lens, there is no evidence of it being used for the treatment. But some people do use kind of to make sure that their food intake is actually well supplemented. So again, that's going to be depending on what practitioner you're working with.
But it's always safe to take like a bath with Epsom salt. I mean, you can't, that's safe. And that's relaxing. And that's magnesium.
Right.
The Epsom salts?
Yeah.
So if people don't know what Epsom...
Yeah, I'll speak to that themselves. I got hooked on these things about a year ago, and they're tremendous for any types of aches and pains, especially athletic pains, but also really great for mental health. Just relaxing after a long day. I never thought I'd be the type of guy to do this, but another friend of mine as well. We're both like guys in late 30s, early 40s, and we both got hooked around the same time. We're like, yeah, man, I don't know, but give it a try. Epsom salts, really great for just calming anything in your life after a long day. Give it a try, seriously.
Yeah. So one of the things that you want to do when you're taking a bath is create like a kind of osmosis with the water, and so by creating that in the bath, you can actually relax a lot better, and probably also absorb a few of the minerals that are present within the salts.
Yeah, a lot of professional athletes are now using Epsom salts, so I recommend them. Anne, were there any topics that we didn't bring up that you wanted to discuss tonight?
I don't think so. I loved our discussion. It was so interesting.
Eclectic enough for you? Yeah. 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 I know Tony's getting a lot of thank yous. I'm seeing them pop up on the screen every here and there. We can see the comments on the screen. Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading your mind. No. Sarah, did you have anything last minute you wanted to bring up? Because we've been going almost an hour and a half now. Yeah. Straight. Yeah.
Well, I'm just very happy that we're in an age where we can have these discussions, and that more and more there is an understanding that you need to exercise, you need to sleep, you need to feel good about yourself, you need to be well, and that's part of the discussion that I think was one of the hot topics, was how do we make sure that we integrate all these things. And to integrate these things, you need to really make sure that the people that you're coming into contact, you feel like you have a good relationship with. That's super, super important in any kind of health related elements. I'm thinking about the day hospital at the Allen, and they actually have Tai Chi being practiced at the day hospital. So if you're going there, there's actually Tai Chi that's part of the treatment regimen. And I think we're seeing more and more of these treatment, or even we were talking a bit about PTSD in the past hour, and one of the things that's been kind of emerging is desensitization movement therapy. So which basically recreates your REM eye movement at the same time as going through trauma, and now that's becoming part of the treatments in a lot of different hospitals. And we're also starting to see, even within I remember in my rotations in cardiology, how we need to use yoga movements in order to decrease the amount of cardiac failure. So we're having this kind of integration that's starting to kind of being processed. And the amazing amazingness results is really seen because there is this kind of new opening in terms of being able to have these discussions. So I'm really grateful that that was one of the hot topics that AMI-Quebec, you guys have been putting together, and that we're going through that process of kind of integrating these different things together.
Yeah, and of course, marijuana, as it was our first episode in October, obviously the world's changing quickly, which is difficult for you as doctors because you're always playing catch up, right? Any doctor, right? Because, the technology and whatnot in terms of what's out there, yet you're using herbs that are millions of years old too. So it kind of goes both ways. We're reaching into our future and into our past, which makes it a really interesting time in the world. Any last questions, Tony, from the audience?
No questions. Someone said this is their first time tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any future ones already
Yeah.
scheduled?
Yeah.
We could go over that.
That's a good segue for me, because I was going to wrap up by talking a little bit about our upcoming program at AMI-Quebec. So this is I'll tell you a bit about our schedule, our spring schedule. This is April, May, and June, and it's not out there yet, but I'll just highlight what we have coming up, and the dates and everything else will be firmed up on our website in the coming days. So we have a workshop called Creative Expression, which is sort of a art therapy where you get to come out of magazines and do a really interesting montage stuff. And this is a great outlet for caregivers of people with mental illness. As one thing we do have coming up that I mentioned earlier was Acceptance and Go, which is about the grieving process. We have that coming up in April as well, and that's something new. Grieving is something that's very universal, and the process of letting go of that is very, very, it's a powerful thing. It's empowering to be able to go through those stages, especially part of the group. One thing we discussed in detail is mindfulness, and we have mindfulness, which is probably our most popular workshop. It's coming back in April, several sessions of that with Julia, who's been doing this with us for a few years now. We have a borderline personality disorder validation group that's available. You have to reach out to us to join that. Someone, as Tony mentioned, was asking about these Facebook Live topics. Our next one will be on April 24th, and it's going to be on LGBT, gender, and mental illness. So that's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered. We're going to be talking about gender and mental illness. Obviously, we live in a world where not everyone is straight, and not everyone is gay, not everyone is homosexual, heterosexual, and obviously there's just so many, permutations of how we live our lives, and in terms of sexuality and how that interacts with mental illness, because obviously these are two facets of our lives, and they go hand in hand in certain ways. So it's something, Sarah, I don't know if you're going to be here, but we'll have a resident from McGill, if not Sarah, and we'll bring someone else from the community as well, because we like to have the interaction with two people kind of similar, but let's say conjoining worlds, often with different thoughts, but reach in the middle to discuss similar topics. We're going to have an introduction to BPD class at the end of April. We have a caregivers group that meets May and June. You can find out more about these by calling AMI-Quebec. It's 514. I'm so horrible, I don't even know the phone number of my organization. It's 514-486-1448. I actually took the business card to my computer. No lies there. And we have a BPD validation group coming up as well. A BPD validation class. It's a 2-part workshop, and that's for caregivers of people who have BPD people in their lives. Something new for the time is my boss Ella Amir and I will be doing a Facebook live stream video discussing recovery together, which would be kind of fundamental issue that a lot of people go through the recovery process. And then there's going to be a coping skills workshop in May, and then a communications workshop 2-part series in May. And as always, we have our support groups on Monday nights at the Jewish General Hospital. It's 3 Mondays a month, and there's everything. It's depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, BPD, hoarding, as I mentioned, our Kaleidoscope group for anyone with mental illness. We have a family group that's just for family and friends only. And there's probably one or two I forgot to add in there. We have a South Shore group for people who live on the South Shore of Montreal. We have workshops, as I mentioned before. We have podcasts. We have a YouTube channel with a lot of videos. We have one-on-one counseling. That's something I never mentioned. It's called SOS for Me, and it's a free service for any caregiver. All you do is call us, and we'll talk to you on the phone and see if you're right for our counseling. And you have a certain amount of sessions per year with us there. And one thing I wanted to mention, it's not finalized yet, but it is tax season. And we made a video on our YouTube channel 2 years ago on the disability tax credit. And I swear, I think it had something like 1,000 views on it. So we're going to update that because, you know, like anything in this world, things change very rapidly. So we're going to probably bring in the man who created that video and do a live Facebook event like this on the disability tax credit, which is something that affects a lot of people, and help you to go through the taxation process that time of year. So we'll have info on that on our website. Our website's AMI-Quebec.org. Any questions, give us a call or check out our website, email us. So I wanted to thank everyone involved. I'll start with Tony. Thank you for being with us tonight on the laptop answering all the questions. I wanted to thank the audience for being with us. Obviously, like I said, you can reach us anytime after this date. We have our other our other Facebook videos are, if you go in the video section, they're below. So there's one on social media and internet addiction, which I highly recommend, and then we did the one on medical marijuana in October as well. They're both about an hour and a half, 2 hours long, but lots of gems of information and anecdotes. And Sarah did a ton of research for both of those, I remember, diligently. So I want to thank Anne for being with us remotely from the Laurentian side. Did you want to mention a website or any of your services, Anne? No?
I'd like to work with you one day to offer a retreat for families.
Okay, well, if you want, you could.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. If you want to put your contact info, you can put it in the comment sections below the video, and if anyone wants to reach out to you.
I had this idea of offering a retreat to families that had someone that had committed suicide, to have like circle of discussion. So that's something which was in my mind and that I could offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a way for you to reach out to Anne. And so thanks for being with us. And Sarah, thanks again. You've done a ton of these with us, and this is our first year doing this. So those of you watching this, even watching it after the fact, days and weeks later, let us know how we did, and let us know potential topics for the future. We're always looking for new things to try out and new people to talk to. So I want to thank everyone for being with us again. And last and not least, check our website, AMI-Quebec.org. You're not alone, and we're out here to help you and you to help us. So thank you for being with us tonight, and have a good evening. Bye.